Hey everyone, so my name is Animesh and today we'll be learning about Scrum and Agile methodology in SDLC and what is it used, what are their differences, how it looks like. So let's get ahead and learn about Agile methodology. Right. So the word Agile means swift and versatile and that is totally justified because Agile methodology is a practice that helps in continuous iteration of development and the testing part and the whole SDLC processes. It generally breaks down the product into the smaller build parts so that each phase may contain sometimes a single or multiple different parts. And each iteration here is referred as a frame and which generally lasts from 1 to 4 weeks. So what happens is in those frame or 1 to 4 weeks, we dedicate our time in that particular build. For example, if we are designing and developing, so the whole time duration is spent on designing and developing part only. So how does it look like? What does the cycle look like? So each iteration basically involves a team of working full software development SDLC, including planning, requirement analysis, designing, coding, and testing before the product is launched or demonstrated to the client or is made public for everyone. Right. So how does the iteration look like? So this is how each iteration looks like. So we can see that this is iteration one. Okay. So once in the first iteration, the basics is done, which usually takes around 4 to 5 weeks, in which we first go the requirement analysis, then building, designing, then actually implementing the code, then testing, and then at the last planning. Sorry. So this is how the iteration looks like. Each iteration, it usually takes around 4 to 5 weeks, depending upon the planning period. So here the cycle is the same. First, we have the planning part. Then it moves to checking whether what requirements are needed, the data information and data gathering. Then we design, we build the SRS. Then we move to building, that is actually implementing the code and build making the prototypes. That comes as the fourth part. The fifth part comes the testing, and then again once the testing is done, we check whether what we have planned is what we have achieved. If not, then the planning, we go back to the planning stage, we revise it, we use the feedbacks, and then remake the whole thing. Now the remaking of the whole thing comes into the second iteration. That usually takes place after the gap of 2 3 months. After the 2 3 months regular testing, planning, and implementing the feedback, we again go back and from what we have got, that is review or feedback, we again then analyze if our requirement analysis are same or not. If it's different, add new implement requirements. Then we move to SRS or SDD. Once its design is ready, we go to build and such so on. The fourth cycle continues, the iteration continues. This the number of iteration basically depends upon how many times your feedback has been implemented, or what are the problems or the defects that has been neutralized or are needed to neutralize. So depending upon all those things, we can have even 1 to 2 iteration to 1 to 10 iterations. The whole thing depends upon how much thorough each time we are in planning, analyzing, designing, building, and the testing part. Okay. So now the question comes: the agile methodology is when is the agile methodology implemented, or when it is used? So agile is very well suited for ongoing projects where certain clear details aren't clear from the start. Like suppose the client has asked you to build certain things, but he has not mentioned like what more functionalities or what each functionalities means to, right? So there would be a constant updates that you have to deal with while moving on in the project cycle, software life cycle. So that's where the agile comes in. It is a very good practice because each time there are multiple iterations. If one thing is not implemented into first iteration, it could be implemented into the next iteration. So this makes agile very good for industries that are dealing with constant and unpredictable changes, which require constant version releases or just new feature updates and such much. Now this is all about agile. So now let's talk about Scrum method. So Scrum method is basically one of the agile testing methods, and we can also say like Scrum in is an agile process that allows us to form or to focus on only delivering the highest business value from the company perspective in the shortest period of time, right? So basically, it allows us to build rapidly build and inspect basically at every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, we can say. We inspect where and what process and what part our software is, what is more needed, and much more. So this is an overview of the Scrum methodology, to be in a short case, to be honest. But the main part that comes in, which makes it different from Agile, is that the Scrum has a three different kinds of roles in, and each role has certain kind of responsibilities that are associated with it. For example, these are the three. The Scrum Master. The Scrum Master needs to set up the Scrum can be set up the master team, which basically arranges the meeting, remove obstacle for the process if there is any blockers while making. The second role is the product owner. So product owner basically makes the product backlog, prioritize like why the delays are is and basically is responsible for the distribution of functionality on each presentation, each repetition. So what it actually means is like if I'm a product owner, for example, so it's my responsibility to actually log what iteration or the activities, log all the activities the software has gone through, including its iteration part, the sprints, to be honest, in which we say. And it's my responsibility to check why there has been a delay in while implementing or making the functionality live in each part of the stage. The third part that is called the Scrum team. They basically manage the work and organize the work to complete the sprint or the cycle. As we have seen in the Agile method, there are iteration, and each iteration there are the cycles. Those cycles are called sprint. Now, like then what is the difference between Agile and the Scrum? As we have seen, Scrum is part in the Agile umbrella. But what are let's get to know more about like what are the key features that makes Agile and Scrum different. So let's get ahead with the Agile. So basically, in Agile process, the leadership plays a very vital role because there is no cross-functioning team, there is no roles and responsibility, there is only one leadership. And compared to the Scrum, it is more rigid, as we have seen in the Agile part. Once in each cycle, there after each cycle, it moves to the next iteration, right? And it moves only one way in the cycle, so that constrains it a bit more. It makes it a more rigid. It's not much more flexible, and it actually requires a lot of front development processes and organizational change. For example, if there is a change in the leadership position, then the software that was under that certain leader will also go through some changes. It might get hold of workflow model changed, or there could be some smaller changes to in the form of implementation delays, processes, review and feedback, and much more. And the agile methods needs frequent delivery to the end user for their feedback, because after each iteration they have to see like what the client has demanded is being fulfilled or not. Therefore, its design and execution are generally kept very simple. There are not many changes that goes through while developing or executing. Okay. So, how is Scrum different from Agile here? So basically, Scrum fosters a sense of a belonging in a team, as it fosters self-organization, organizing, and cross-functional work within a team. And the biggest advantage is that it is very flexible and it quickly reacts to the changes. So if there is any sudden or unpredictable change that are required to be implemented in the first cycle or the sprint, it can be done. And as we have seen, like not many changes are needed while implementing the Scrum process. So it's very easy. It's very flexible to use it. It's very calm going. The situation is never hassled. It's generally very calm, and therefore, after each sprint, a build is delivered to the client for their feedback. And once we get the feedback, we can either launch it or make it changes um, at any point of time. But the most important, like the way it differs, is that design and execution can be innovative and experimental. There is no need of actually making it in a certain way or such. So that's it for this. Hope you got to learn something new and something knowledgeable. See you soon.